Greetings, friends, crew member of our beloved, polluted, and unique spacecraft, which, since the last time we met on this network, has taken another turn about its imaginary axis, and of course, continues created events in full development. And today's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. What a week! What a week! And well, it's not over because events are in full development. So, Shabbat Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, Pax Bovis. Remember that these three types of greetings represent the three main religions in the world. And I think that we agree that in the Middle East, we have the same rights, the same feelings of faith that represent, of course, a lot when we talk about coexistence from the humans. Of course, if we're to respect these feelings. And today, Mr. Trump, as his leitmotif usually is, I want to go ahead and state that he wants to be a commander. He is legally a commander-in-chief, but he still wants to tackle things that are beyond his hands, and now he's tackling the Far East, of course, Korea, and everything related to this as well. And by showing his strength throughout the world and showing his power, there's once again a new warming up. I would like to use this phrase because these usually were very delicate topics that were tackled very carefully as if it was grandma's crystal collection. However, this person bought his presidency by getting the best group of advisors. He had a great campaign. This is legal. There are ways of doing so. And listen, here, in the previous republic, the ones of Acción Democrática got the best advisors of the Republican Party of the United States, and the Christian Democracy, COPEI, had the best advisors of the Democrat Party. So, at least once of all the campaigns that I have covered was a very long one with the advisors of President Kennedy. And you get to learn. If you want to learn, you will. Experience cannot be transferred, but you can understand, you can learn with theory, with the professors of this type of campaigns, and of course working with them on the site. Now let's take a look at the events in full development. As I told you before, the problem is that Mr. Trump wants to be a commander-in-chief. It comes with his position. But let's see what the guy with the long tie wants to say.
Rudy is a great guy, but he just started a day ago. But he really has his heart into it. He's working hard.
Let me tell you something. Rudy is a great guy, but he just started one day ago. But he really has his heart on this. He is working hard. He is learning about this, which is creating a statement. But he is a great guy. This is a witch hunt. This is what we know. He's seen a great amount of these people, and he's never seen something so awful. Just an example, 33,000 emails requested by the Congress, and for them to be burned and eliminated. Come on, give me a break. So this is how Rudy knows that this is a witch hunt, and he started yesterday. He will have his facts. He's a good guy, but what he's feeling is wrong for our country, and he's right.
It's actually very simple. It's actually very simple, but there has been a lot of...
We are holding talks with North Korea, and many things have happened with hostages. I think there's going to be very good things. And as I said yesterday, be attentive. There's going to be a lot of good things, and we're programming our trip. Now we have a day, we have a location, and we will let you know about this.
A lot of things have already happened with respect to the hostages, and I think you're going to see very good things.
The hellish background noise is because he wanted to speak in the landing spot of the helicopter. It's part of the Navy, but whenever he is on board, it's called Marine One. He could have chosen a better time, but he decided to speak with the helicopter right next to him. I would love to speak. I would love to speak. No one wants to speak more than me. Of course, we believe him. And this is against what my lawyers say, because most lawyers tell me that I don't speak about anything. And I would love to speak, because we didn't do anything wrong. There's no conclusion of their options. There's no obstruction. You know, this is funny, and you're defending yourselves because there's a leakage or they're counterattacking, and there's an obstruction to justice. someone is saying that something bad was done, then you answer, well, there's an obstruction in justice. This is nonsense. Just wait for what I will say. We didn't do anything wrong. We had a great campaign. We won easily. And I believe this is a great victory. It has been a great day for this country. We only had new numbers for work, and I would love to go and speak, but we need to speak fairly. I need to find a way to be treated fairly. But everyone sees this right now. This is a witch hunt. Everyone knows this because we have Republicans that are also trying to understand why Republicans will do what they are wanting to do. It's unfair. If this would be fair, I would annul my lawyers.
Everybody sees it now, and it is a pure witch hunt. Right now, it's a pure witch hunt. Why don't we have Republicans looking also? Why aren't we having Republican people doing what all these Democrats are doing? It is a very unfair thing. If I thought it was fair, I would override my lawyers.
To another question, he answered, I deeply respect the Shiite president. That's why we're so kind, and we are having some very good relationships. But we want to have a fair trade between the United States and Russia. This is with President Xi. Why did he state this? This is a nightmare for the operators. Because this person wanted to speak in the helipad where the presidential helicopter lands, and of course it makes a lot of noise. It's waiting for takeoff. From the moment when he is done climbing the stairs and sets a foot on the helicopter, it will be called Marine 1, because the Marines are the ones transporting him in the helicopter. That's the Navy member who's there. He's greeting the president, and from this point on, it's called Marine 1. The summit with the Asian leader could take place this month as long as North Korea grants certain concessions. The main Chinese diplomat meets with the North Korean leader in Pyongyang. A great option. They are shaking hands, and the feel is that things are doing fine. And of course, the cameras, well, they're now located in a very big protocol room. And based on this, the TV of North Korea provided a video of Kim Jong-un, who met with the most important diplomat of China, Wang Yi, and this is what we're seeing right now. He was visiting North Korea after the meeting of last week with the South Korean President Moon Jae-in and the North Korean President when they decided to improve their bonds. They surprised the world because they stated that he would dismantle his nuclear spot location to guarantee transparently his commitment of stopping all nuclear and missile tests. In a meeting held in North Korea, Pyongyang, and Kin, it was said that the recent changes in the peninsula were beneficial for a peaceful relationship, as said by the Foreign Affairs Minister of China. China is the most important diplomatic backup of North Korea, even though they're not happy with the nuclear test and their support of strong sanctions from the United Nations to North Korea. The pictures show telephone conversations as well, and Xi Jinping and Moon Jae-in from Korea spoke about bilateral relationships and development of peace in the Korean peninsula during an important telephone talk, and then they met in person. Xi stated that China pays attention to bilateral negotiations and are willing to improve communications with South Korea by deepening a pragmatic cooperation and promote cultural exchange in order to progress constantly with bilateral relationships and the common interests of both parties. She mentioned that relations between both countries are fostered with development, and the consensus of both leaders has implemented a good foundation and has been carried out in a bilateral strategic cooperation in a continuous fashion. Japan praises the positive efforts to improve the ties between the two Koreas. Here, Shi Moon, with phone talks, stated that China has a key role to play. Here, we're in Tiananmen Square, which is the biggest one in the world, in front the Avenue of Eternal Peace and the Forbidden City. She stated that China is paying attention to bilateral relationships. They're willing for all the alterations and what was part of the communications to be overcome. This is, of course, also related to South Korea. Here we have the great elements that are a reference for South Korea and the elements to progress constantly in the bilateral relationship between both parties. Kung said that he is delighted with this and that the implementation of the consensus in South Korea, they're committed to foster continuous relationship of bilateral relationship. On the other hand, Abe said that they welcome the positive signs in the peninsula. Once again, the Forbidden City in the background, the big red flag. This is the bell button, the historic bell button. This is the Avenue of Eternal Peace. This is in Beijing, the center of Beijing. It's not the most important and the only important, but it is very representative, and it's always perfect, and there's absolute order. You cannot see a single piece of paper in the ground. If you see one, it was a tourist, without a doubt. House of Tourists, China and the United States exchanged their point of views about economic and trade matters. Well, this is Japan, who are requesting an effort to bring back the ties between the two Koreas, and for this, the National Day of the Great Bridge, a story of China and Japan who need to work together with the contradiction and difference to bring back to trail bilateral relationships and fight for new developments, as stated by Xi Jinping on Friday on the phone talks held with Prime Minister of Japan Shinzo Abe. For a moment in time, Japan has shown positive signs and taken positive actions on bilateral relationships. This is the White House, of course. And you can reach that point, take a picture, and that's it. You cannot go inside unless you've been invited. China denies the accusations of the United States of the lasers against planes in Djibouti. And the pictures, the Prime Minister of China and the Secretary of Treasury in the United States, as well as the square. The story behind this is that Chinese and American representatives shared their point of view on economic and trade relationships in Beijing on Thursday, as well as the development of the heavy industry. That's a spectacular there. And the discussions are efficient and constructive, and they expect to reach the decisions that must be made. The spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Chua Jun-xing, said they should consult the Ministry of Defense based on the case that you pointed out. But I can tell you that from the Chinese area, with strict controls, have already stated for the American side that the criticism are not in full agreement with the facts. This is the picture of the Chinese Chancellery. It's a very modern one, the Chinese national flag waving. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China said on Friday, May 4, that the formal complaints of the United States are about lasers to military aircrafts near Djibouti from the United States. Marx's theory is still based on truth. This is the facade of the People's Room. This is a conference to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birth of Karl Marx. And this states, be joined strictly to the Central Committee of the People's Party of China, with Xi Jinping in his core. Defend and develop Marxism, a struggle for the great success of socialism with the Chinese features for a new era. This is an ongoing conference. We have all the chain of command, the Central Committee of the party. People applaud while they're standing. And the national anthem of China. The Chinese president and secretary of the Communist Party of China, the biggest one in the world. The East is red, beautiful. And based on this, the President, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China, said that Marx was a master for the revolution for the workers and people throughout the world. Founder of Marxism, the initiator of the Marxist parties, the one who brought international communism, the greatest thinker of modern times. Attending the conference, Li Shanshung, member of the Permanent Committee of the Political Bureau of the Central Committee of the Communist Party, Wang Yang, member of the Permanent Committee of the Political Group of the Central Committee, Wan Humin, member of the Political Bureau, and Xiong Lejin, member of the Central Committee. Kang Sheng, Vice Prime Minister of China, also a member of the Permanent Committee of the Central Bureau, Xi Jinping, President of China and General Secretary of the Communist Party of China, of course, as we mentioned before, President of the Military Central Commission. And here we have the main picture in one of the most important meetings that have been held in these very important quarters. What could console Marx is that Marxism has led China successfully to start a successful path to build a strong socialist and modern country. As law practitioners and practitioners of Marxism, Chinese communists endeavor and effort to continue and develop with Marxism. In the way of progress, we need to keep high the name of Marx for the beautiful perspectives of the human beings that have been foreseen by Marx and Engels to develop constantly in the country of China. The Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China and President of the Military Central Commission provided his statement in the big meeting. Marx was a master of revolution for the workers throughout the world, the main founder of Marxism and the one who started the Marxist parties. This is an international emphasization in China. Well, we're changing places in the map. This is a very interesting piece of news and expected. In the Basque French region, they're welcoming the dissolution of ETA, ETA. The owner of the Café de Paris in Toulon is pouring a beer. He has a sign in the window about the Basque country and the members of ETA. Customers coming in the brewery. The dissolution of ETA is logical. It's logical path after yesterday's conference and the peace process of the Basque country after disarming, and ETA that have announced their dissolution for us are citizens of the Basque country. The artisans of peace, the mediators of the peace process, had a very great work. Some of us also participated because they requested the civil society for us to disarm them as well. So we were expecting this gesture of full dissolution, and now we're going to see what the measures are made from the governments of France and Spain, because today we need to free the prisoners, and mainly the sick prisoners. ETA has done everything in their hands, and we hope the same to be done from France and Spain. The owner of the Café de Pienne, Duché de Long, said,
nous, ça va rester. Et puis aujourd'hui, l'histoire est forte au Pays Basque, que ce soit en Égoaldé ou en Iparaldé, au nord ou au sud. L'histoire est forte. Nous, on l'inculque, on l'apprend à nos enfants. La culture est là. Il ne faut pas oublier justement pour que ça ne se reproduise pas. Il ne faut pas oublier. Mais c'est à nous de transmettre aux jeunes l'histoire du Pays Basque.
Not everyone is now undergoing the best of moments. We can see the Basque flag that is still in the hands of the demonstrators looking for their old goals. And the demonstrators that have been attacked by the police. In the city of Lyon, in the heart of the Basque country, the owner of the bar stated that he is thankful with the dissolution of ETA because the struggle of the Basques should never be forgotten. September 1980, a bomb exploded in the restaurant Udalitz of the Rue Benenceau that belonged to a former ETA manager in Spain. He said that he expected the governments of France to continue with their good faith gesture by freeing some prisoners of ETA. They seem to be calmed, however, these people have their own demonstrations inside. ETA decided to conclude their attack in 2011, and in 2017 gave in 3.5 tons of weapons, which was the last militant campaign of Western Europe and led it to its end. ETA was formed in Madrid in 1959 by students that were against the repressive dictatorship of General Franco. The Prime Minister of Spain says that there will not be impunity for ETA crimes after the dissolution. ETA has finally acknowledged 50 years after that their whole history has been nothing but a failure. They haven't achieved a single one of the political objectives that they set through their long criminal history, and not a single one of them. Terrorists were not able to get a single thing by killing and not by stopping killing, and they will not get anything by announcing their dissolution. ETA's crimes will still be investigated. The crimes will be judged and, of course, also condemning, and their time will be fulfilled. There has not been and will not be impunity. Mariano Rajoy continued with his straight and hard line and took advantage of this moment. All political parties were together against murderers and his accomplices, because today we can say clearly that Spanish democracy has won against ETA. And this victory is the patrimony of all of us, of all the Democrats of Spain, but also of our neighbors in France and the rest of the European Union who have helped us with this fight. There hasn't been and will never be impunity, as stated in his speech. This is the main message, and then he continues with his tape. Well, ETA's crimes will still be investigated and their crimes will be sent to court. So against a good gesture, he's just closing a door. So I guess they were not expecting this, but still, they have thought about this by the people in charge of the tactics and the strategy of the decisions of ETA. I have 3 satellite monitors with nothing better than what I have already said. And now we're going to have a short commercial break and we'll be back with more events in full development. Stay where you are. We'll be right back.
We're back with more events in full development.
I have the statement of the Bolivarian Army of Venezuela for Dossier with information about the 30th training ship Velas Latinoamericanas 2018 of the training ship Eco Bravo Simón Bolívar Bravo Eco 11. Operational activities of today: the training ship Alfa Bravo Simón Bolívar Bravo Eco 11 continuing with the roadmap of the 30th training ship Velas Latinoamericanas Instruction 2018 is still in the port of Ushuaia, Argentina, complying with the protocol activities as well as exchange activities as established in the protocol of the Navy and by the organizers of the regatta, by welcoming the authorities of the region. They opened the visit of the ship to the people as well as tourist trips for the cadets. This is a very interesting take because we're going to speak about the different words that come from a boat. So this is in Ushuaia. Ushuaia is here. Here exactly. I was near there, but only in the Falklands. We were still with our finger in the trigger. Then they will take a turn here and will turn around. So they open the doors of the ship. There are still rains and wind with 30 knots. A difficult sea. Waves up to 2.5 degrees. It's not actually too difficult based on the usual conditions. 5 degrees Celsius temperature. Third, the combination of cold and wind of the Antarctica, together with humidity, makes a difference. 5 degrees, according to the thermometer, that taking a second shift at night is way different in all this area of the Rio de la Plata and beyond. Amura is part of the side of the ship that starts churning to make the prow. Now let's take a look at the prow. This is the curve that comes from the sides and then creates the prow. This, what you see, are the amuras in Spanish. And then they create the prow. They are called beams usually in English, amura in Spanish. So this is part of our Navy glossary. We received this from Ramon Evemora, who's the officer of the command of the Navy, Antonio Mejia Ponte, captain of the Navy and director of coordination and operational control, and Marco Frascella Arandia, who's the captain of the Navy and the manager of the Bolivarian Navy. Enjoy, regardless of the temperature. You'll find a way to get warmer. Everyone who's been a cadet knows how to become warmer under any temperature, and as they have reached a port, it's even better. Now, there's an interesting event based on how the powers around the world are working. This is related to Moscow and also the situation in some countries of the Middle East that we will be speaking shortly about. And of course, the situations are changing. It seems to be calm, but things are getting more and more difficult, and with that guy in the White House, things are even more difficult. Now we're going to listen to people in different places. Russia states that they will honor the nuclear agreement of Iran. Maria Zakharova, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said that any problem related to implementation of a comprehensive joint plan can be discussed exclusively with the participants of the Joint Commission of the Six Great Powers: Great Britain, China, France, Germany, Russia, United States, and Iran. All the tools needed for this have been included in the plan. Russia continues with their commitments in conformity with this document and will continue with this lies as long as the rest of the participants act in agreement with the decree and the Resolution Council 2031. Russia states that inspectors of WHO for chemical weapons have completed their work. And here, Igor Konashenkov, Minister of Defense of Russia, through his spokesperson, said that in the Syrian city of Duma, a group of experts of the Organizations for Propagation of Chemical Weapons are certifying the information about a chemical attack on April 7 by the government forces and have completed their effort. The officers of the Russian Center for the Conciliation of the Opposed Parties and the military police have ensured the preservation of all objects and sites for the presumed attacks shown in Duma after the liberation of the militants. The inspectors ensure a total access to all areas and buildings that were part of this interest to provide their work through all the time needed. Konashenkov stated, during our work in the east of Gouda, experts visited 2 stories where poisonous substances were said to be used and took necessary samples, as well as visiting a lab of terrorists and a warehouse of chemical substances. Experts have also visited a hospital in the city of Duma where they spoke to residents and to the video that was filmed by the members of the White Helmet organization and took all necessary samples here. Well, the fact that the death of tens of people in Duma is investigated and claimed that it was part of Damascus. The opposition party in Turkey have appointed their presidential candidate to defy Erdogan. Presidential candidate of the Popular Republican Party, Muharrem Erense, as a person who was on the street at 15 to hang signs for the intermediate elections of 1979, he had the sign of the Republican Party for 39 years. I will be an impartial president. Leader of the Republican Party, Kılıçdaroğlu, who's the candidate of the Muharrem Insi, part of the party. The candidate of HDP, well, this is not Spanish, remember, HDP, with the acronym from there. This is our legislator of Istanbul, Shatia Dermitas, who's a hostage of the prison of Dirme. Meral Abdener said, I requested the electoral board to make me a candidate with 100,000 signatures. May God allow this to be good. May God be with us, and I hope that this is the best for us and our people. Thank you. Tayyip Erdogan, Turkish president, also spoke in the opening ceremony, and the candidates for the different levels of the different categories also became a part of this with no discrimination. The main opposition Republican Party, CHP of Turkey, had one of the most important workers to defy President Erdogan, appointed on Friday. Miraka Sener, speaking about candidates, 100,000 signatures were required for this, and now, based on Erdogan, you will not do the best for the country. Democracy means honesty, and somehow democracy is honor.
Demokrasi, evet, bir yerde namus meselesidir.
The objective of this alliance and this candidate is not to find a solution for the country and the people. No, it goes beyond this. We're going above the sky. The story is that the opposition Republican Party, the main one, CHP of Turkey, appointed on Friday one of the most important workers to defy Erdogan in the presidential elections of July 24th. Israel is firing tear gas as warning shots against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Of course, on a Friday, as always. It's not any type of tear gas. The smoke is due to tires being burned. We see also ambulances in the picture and wounded Palestinians, as always, in each one of the protests. First aid doctors in the scene, ambulances parked next to the press to have a first-hand testimony, because as often you can see, we can gather it and show it in our show. We can also listen to a drone. Israeli troops fired tear gas and projectiles against the protesters of Gaza against Israel on Friday in a long-lasting protest where 43 Palestinians have been murdered due to shots fired by the Israeli. This is just in. We didn't have any reports earlier of wounded or dead people, but now there are 43 dead Palestinians. Palestinians are always the dead ones. There's a fence in the border of 40 kilometers actually, and they have the so-called March of Return on March 30th. Two-thirds of the 2 million Palestinians of Gaza are refugees, and the protest has brought back their long-lasting demands of coming back to their family homes that come back in generations that are now part of what they decided belongs to Israel. At Palestine, according to Twitter, the occupants of Israel wounded 42 Palestinians in Gaza. The Zionist murdering machine will not stop until sanctions are applied. But the Zionist mob is the one in charge of the threats of power, and this is why there is still massacring the people as if it was nothing. This is the march of the Great Return. The childhood of Palestine under the occupation of Israel is a situation that everyone should know about. The media, however, protect Israel. This is the information that we get from the Palestinian side, of course. Maduro has just announced, while the drama continued as always in Palestine and violating all the resolutions within the nations, Maduro announced a renewed plan of fight against corruption. Every year, 700 Palestinian children are apprehended by Israel. The army are taking pride by apprehending these children. The special forces have 700 children apprehended. Judge yourselves. NGO B'Tselem states that apprehended children with no trial have increased since October 2015. Over 8,000 children have been apprehended since 2000. What's the honor behind this? What's the pride for someone wearing a uniform? The most common claim presented is throwing stones, punished with up to 20 years in jail. The child is screaming, "Mom, come with us, Mom." "86% of Palestinian children apprehended have been subject to physical violence." 86%, as I stated. Prisoners live in terrible conditions, in terrible facilities, and they're overcrowding conditions. Access to health services, abused, hit, humiliated without any access to health services by the people in the prisons. Gases, armored trucks, threatened by solitary confinement and strong visits of family visits. This is the life of the apprehended children. Maduro announced a renewed plan for fight against corruption. Starting tomorrow with the attorney's office, with the judicial power. Here we go. Some are dressed in red to steal from the people. I will not accept this. No, I will not accept this. This is a socialist revolution, a radical revolution. We cannot accept this. People are stealing from the people. Whoever is stealing from the people, dressed in red, will go to jail just like any other person. My commitment with the working people, my commitment is with the humble people. You understand what I'm saying, don't you? You support me, don't you? Whether there's a storm, whether it rains, we will be here. We will be here to see all of you with lots of love, lots of commitment. I give you all my love. I am the president of the people. I came from these streets. I came from these neighborhoods. I came from these people. I am the people. I am the president of the people. So what do you say? Do we suspend the elections? No. I cannot hear you. Can you hear? Do we suspend the elections? Do we suspend the elections? What do you say? What do you say? But help me answer. In Venezuela, whether it rains, whether it storms, there will be elections on May 20, and the people will go to the streets to vote. To vote and to vote and to vote. Everyone will vote. This is just a small picture of what's happening in the streets. And this person is the general of the free people, Augusto César Sandino, who was the nightmare of the interventionist forces of the United States in Central America. Nicaragua remembers Sandino in the Day of Dignity. The pact establishes the creation of the National Guard and the intervention of the United States, and Sandino, General, refuses to sign this and rebels against the American troops. This action is known as the Day of Dignity in Nicaragua. And that day, his own fight starts. His war of a militia. Sandino became a liberator of Nicaragua with a lot of dignity. Liberator of Nicaragua with all dignity. Sandino taught us, people of Nicaragua, that we are the owners of our nation, of our fate, of the San Juan River of Momotombo. Sandino taught us that in the libertarian heart that we have, we don't negotiate with anyone. The Pact of Espino Negro contains the Pact of General Sandino offering $10 per each weapon given in. Sandino said, no, I will never sell myself. I cannot be bought out. I will go to the mountains. I will die there with my people. They will never able to defeat Sandino, not even with the infantry and the troops of the gringos in Nicaragua. Sandino and his small army. The stigma of the liberal politicians was selling the nation to the empire. Dignity today is in leisure, in the parks, in new bridges, in the roads that now are big roads. Sandino taught us Nicaraguans that we are owners of our own fate, of our own nation. 91 years ago, Nicaragua proved the world that national honor cannot be taken away. The Revolutionary Tribe of 1979 was due to this, started by Sandino. I will not sell myself. I will not give in. We will reach freedom or reach death, and if we die, our cause will still be alive. Others will follow us, Sandino. Well, this is what Nicaragua remembers today, the Day of National Dignity. And today we remember a friend. I had the chance of having the first microphone test in Radio Colonia, CW1 in Uruguay. Victor Hugo Morales, whose house was taken over in Palermo neighborhood, Argentina. A new judicial prosecution, and he has given the responsibility on the group Clarín. Morales stated that the police broke into his apartment where his wife was there in order to get 2 pictures and a lamp. You're saying that this cost 50,000 pesos, this picture. Victor Hugo came back with his daily news where he was fired last year due to the government, according to what he said to journalists. And when he came back, he has criticized President Mauricio Macri due to the increase of public tariffs and also questioned Argentinian justice. In 2 months, they will be able to do this, to humiliate these people, to harass them. Because what can these lead to? What do they want? I would like to send this, to put this in a trunk and say, is this what you're looking for? Is this what you want? This is a procedure that just tries to bring discipline. This happens to anyone that messes with them. And they choose someone who's well known as myself for this to have the effect that they want to. Victor Hugo, as in the old times of Radio Colonia. Other figures have been there. Listen to this. In Rio de la Plata, Uruguay, in front of Uruguay. And this, take a look at this picture. This should have taken in 64, 65. This is an Oricon. An excellent but very old camera. And this person remembers the sensational Saturdays, the long Saturdays with Pipo Mancera. He was there being welcomed by the youngest press manager in Latin American important radio, who was this person here, who had the terrible habit of smoking. He took this while he was in the armed forces, and this person was, of course, yours truly. And why is this important? Well, because here, and this is a nostalgic memoir of Victor Hugo Morales, in that studio we had the first microphone test with Victor Hugo Morales. He was a good-looking young man. He was in his high school days, and he said, I want to work with anything. I just need work because I need to finish high school. I said, okay. We were speaking to him. He had the culture of bachelorate in Uruguay, and he wanted to continue with the university studies, and he had a natural voice. He knew how to speak. And we told him, okay, we're going to test you with a microphone. And Garcia, who was the owner of Crónica and Última Hora and other papers, had the chance to buy Radio Colonia. And he said, listen, we have this prospect here. And listening to him, test him, and it was just a success. And also he inherited the history of the old sports speaker of all the World Cups. And he had the great goal that gave the World Cup of Argentina. And it was only with the emotion of Victor Hugo Morales, the goal of Diego. And the phrase, barrilete cósmico. There's not a single way to translate or to define Diego. When I speak about Diego, I speak about Maradona. This started on Studio 1 of Radio Colonia. It was a very powerful weapon. It was indeed. And these are our memories to listen to Victor Hugo. I had the first microphone test with him. And recently, I was with the training ship in an escapade to Colonia. And I was really sad to see how this is doing. It is still an important station, but the study no longer is as it should be. We used to have a Steinway piano. It's like having a Stradivarius violin. And it is worn out. And I was a little bit depressed by this. But in the hard times where things were not set in Argentina, yours truly, who was the press manager of Radio Colonia, the youngest one of Latin America. We covered all the information of the South with a mission of our station, and today I can say we had an old military telephone and a not so legal line under the river, with which the journalists of the different networks was then attempt of a coup. Just to send an example, for instance, President Elias goes out of the residency of Olivas, 8:15. We didn't have cell phones back then, but of course we had other resources. So 8:17, at least in the bar of the corner, we called, and 8:18 they had the news in Crónica, and 8:19 they had this in Colonia. Not Colombia, Colonia, may God forbid. And only after half a kilometer has gone by, we were announcing this to the rest of people. A strategic value of this radio was very important back then, in times where internet wasn't with us. Victor Hugo, this is a better shot. But from this, we create the big anecdotes after our life. I'm with you. We are old friends, old comrades of our journalists struggle for the good times, where we also used to meet after each game with Enzo Ardigo and all the people. Enzo Ardigo said, yes, Gardel came from Uruguay, but as he continues selling, we cannot acknowledge this because the copyright is in Buenos Aires. So this is all with Dossier. Enough for the day before the weekend. Shabbat Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, Pax Bobis. From Studio 3 of Venezuelan Television, here we conclude with Dossier, the Doyen show of the Southern Hemisphere of satellite information. Remember that this program is not of Telesur. Don't send information. Telesur will not get it. Telesur then also broadcast this show. This was Walter Martinez. Happy weekend. Don't be part of the statistics. We want you there on Monday. Director, the floor is all yours.
Yes, I called him today.